Somebody already waiting.
Hmm?
I want to pause. 3 people waiting. I want to pause the recording.
That's a small one.
There's a
No.
They run a battery. They ran a battery of tests, and they said at the end of the evening they didn't find anything. 6 weeks later, I had the same symptoms. Went back to the hospital. Doctors ran a battery of tests, and at the end of the night, they didn't discover anything. The following morning, I was not comfortable with that, so I decided to go to a private doctor. And in examining my foot to the bottom, the doctors discovered that my foot was infected. And I had to go back to the hospital, was admitted. And they then summoned the surgeon. The surgeon told me that my foot has actually broke down, and I had to be admitted to the hospital for evaluation so that they can see that if they could have at that time saved my feet, sorry. And I had surgery to the bottom of both of my feet because I had the bottom of my foot was basically eaten away. And I ended up spending 3 months in the hospital. And at the end of the day, I went into surgery, and the doctor told me that he's going to do his best to try and save my leg. I think I wake up like 4 days later after surgery and realized that I have one leg gone. Now, let me just say this. Hasten to say that I had diabetes prior to that for over 25 years. Trying to maintain control and everything. And at the end of the day, I lost the battle with one leg. But today, I'm trying my best to maintain to control my diabetes, to stay in control of everything that I'm doing to continue to live life. I am back at work, and I'm trying every day to stay focused on the things I have to do to maintain my health and to maintain my life.
Mr. Cooper, when did you get, you have a prosthesis, right?
Yes, I got the prosthesis 6 months later. It was in January of 2019. I got my prosthesis. In fact, I traveled to the US to get my prosthesis, and I came back home with my prosthesis.
How did that help you to cope and move forward? How being able to move and go, kind of go around and move. How did that help you to cope and move forward?
Well, initially when I got my prosthesis, I could not wear it for a week because I have a skin that my skin is allergic to anything foreign, and when I first put on the prosthesis, I actually chafed at the back of my knee. And for about 2 weeks, I could not wear my prosthesis. But after that, it healed, and I've been walking on ever since, from 2018 to the day.
Awesome.
It's not an easy journey, I must say. You know, I was walking since I was, what, 6 months old, so I'm told. I don't know but that's what I'm told. I was walking since I was 6 months old, and I could not see myself not walking after my amputation.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you wanted to tell persons?
You got to pay attention to your legs. You must pay attention to your legs. Ironically, my wife, who is now deceased, she had an amputation. And my second son that followed me, he had an amputation, sorry. Both of them are now deceased. But, you know, like, you gotta just do what you have to do to continue moving. Don't give up. I must say, don't give up and don't give in. That pressure is gonna come for you to give up and to give in. Do not fall prey to that.
I think that's excellent advice, Mr. Cooper. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was actually just thinking, and I told my husband a few minutes ago that Mrs. Cooper actually did a similar presentation at one of our first face-to-face meetings. And she was talking about her experience. I said I would tell you afterwards, but thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out and talking to us and telling us about your experience. Thank you very much. Now we will have Mrs. Gardner, I believe, who will also tell us about her experience with having an amputation and the prosthesis. So Mrs. Gardner, you can unmute and tell us your story, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chantel Gardner. I had my leg amputated in July of 21. So I'm coming to terms with it, but to God be the glory. In July of 21, I went home to bury my mom. And during the Eid, one of the family members got sick, and I went to see what's going on, and didn't have it on the shoe. And ended up getting stuck with something to the bottom of my feet and didn't realize it. Came back Nassau, went to work, and during the pandemic, and I just really, just throw myself into work. And that lasted like for 2 weeks. And on the second day of July, that night was a Friday, as I get off, I live upstairs and I couldn't walk upstairs at all. And my husband had to help me get up the steps. So I trying to figure what's going on with my leg. And the thing about it is that I'm a person, I'm always checking my feet, knowing that I'm a diabetic, and I've been a diabetic now for going on to 20 years. And it so happens that in that space of time, I wasn't checking my feet. When I come home from work, working overtime and stuff, you're tired and stuff, I just go bathing. And then in bed, you change your socks, you put on your socks, and just go straight to bed, get back up the next morning, doing the same routine, and didn't bother to check my feet in that space of time. And like I said, that Friday night I get home, my foot was like, couldn't move. It was done swollen like a big balloon. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And as soon as I took off my socks, it's like, wow, here, the bruise and everything to the bottom of my feet and stuff like that. So I was like, man, no. So I weighed. So the next morning I went to my doctor and they dressed it and they cleaned it up, they dressed it and stuff and things like that. But it wasn't getting no better. And the thing about it is like, I'm starting to get the fever. My sugar wasn't as level, keep on going up, up, up. I am getting weak, I'm getting drained, and nothing happened. Went to another doctor for a second opinion because this is around the holiday now. And as soon as I reached there, the only thing he could tell my husband is rush me straight to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, you know, you've been there so long waiting, and when they finally get to see me and stuff like that, it's like, all they gotta do is just tell me, say, well, Miss Gardner, like earlier morning after they run all the tests and everything to see what's going on with me, the only thing the doctor to come to me and say, well, Miss Gardner, we have to do emergency amputation. And I was so shocked and so stunned. I mean, it's like, couldn't cry. I didn't know what to do, what to say, or anything, or I was just shocked. And so said, so done. They did the amputation of my leg. Actually, it's my feet. They did the first amputation first of my feet because they had to really remove the feet because it was so bad and stuff like that. And, it's like, I really don't know what to say because I was like still trying to figure out how this happened. And me being so careful, being a diabetic and stuff like that, I really don't know. So after a week later, they had to do a second amputation where I have a below knee amputation. So they had to do a second amputation and cutting more of my leg off and stuff like that. But at one point, and knowing that the type of person I am always on the go, always going, and stuff like that. I was like, all I could do is question, like, why me now? What gonna happen to me now? I am a person always on the go, and never stop and stuff like that. Especially when it come down for me working and stuff like that, taking care of myself and my family. So it was really hard at first, but then after a while, everybody come there encouraging you and talking to you and stuff like that. I just started to to calm down and everything. So when I went for my consultation for my leg to get amputation, to get the prosthetic leg, I told the doctor straight and plain, I said, this is like in October now, because after spending a couple of months in the hospital, so when I went there in October, I said, well, now Christmas is coming. I want my leg, and I want to be in the kitchen cooking for my family, and I want to do that for the Christmas. And so said, so done. I was determined, and I pushed myself, whereas if by December of a year, I had my prosthetic leg, because I was not giving up. So now up to this day now, it's been almost 2 years now, July coming, since I had my prosthetic leg. I had my leg amputated and stuff, and I got my prosthetic leg in December of the year. It has been a nonstop. I did not let it slow me down or anything. I still continue to go there and push myself and work and to take care of my family and myself.
Miss Gardner, that is awesome. That is an awesome story. That's just taking lemons and making lemonade.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome, because I just love, you said you looked ahead and you said December, Christmas, I want to be in the kitchen cooking for my family.
Yes, ma'am.
So said, so done.
So done.
Yes. That is awesome. That is a very, very good story. We're going to have you record that for us so we can have that and we can use that to help other patients who are going through the same thing so that they would know that, it does get hard, like Mr. Cooper said. But, like someone already wrote in the chat, said that's the right spirit. So, that is very, very encouraging. So thank you so much for sharing that story with us and letting us know, because a lot of times, I'm so grateful to you and Mr. Cooper because persons don't like to share their story. And that is how other people know, and that they can, there's encouragement in sharing the story so that they too can know that if that situation happens to them, they can also get through it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing with us. We're going to move on. You're welcome.
Can I ask a question right quick, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Mrs. Gardner, where did you get your prosthesis from?
I got my prosthesis at Lewis Orthopedic.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're going to hear a little bit more about that in a minute. So we're going to move on to our speaker. Our speaker this evening is Miss Jodie Lewis. She is no stranger to us because she has been our guest before. She is an entrepreneur and the owner of Lewis Orthopedics, where Miss Gardner got her prosthesis, and many other persons did as well. She has a vast experience in her field since she has been shadowing her father from she was a child. Since grade 10, she chose her career and moved forward. She went to college and spent 7 years where she received a master's degree in orthotics and prosthetics from Loma Linda University. She has completed many internships and residencies, which has given her the expertise and experience to be successful in her business and her chosen career. Let us give her a virtual applause as we welcome Miss Jodie Lewis, who's going to give us our presentation. And then if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them at the end. Thank you so much, Ms. Lewis, for consenting and doing this presentation for us. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I am going to start off with answering the questions that was on the flyer, and then I'll go into giving a little bit more information from there. So the first question was, what is an amputation and what levels are they performed? An amputation is when a surgeon takes off or cuts off your limb. It can be upper limb or lower limb. Upper limb means the arm, lower limb means the leg. You can have different levels of amputations in both upper and lower extremities. Since we're going to specifically talk about diabetics, I'm going to talk about the lower limb prosthetics. So you can start off with losing a toe. And like you've heard earlier, some people start off with the toe and then they move up. But the best thing to do is to prevent that from happening. And I'll go over what things you can do to prevent that from happening. But that is where it starts off, because what happens is with poor circulation, it starts affecting which is furthest away from your heart, which would be your toes. So once that takes place, then it starts to move up and then it jumps over to the next leg. So we want to prevent that from happening, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So what roles does diabetes play in causing lower limb extremity amputations? Diabetes is the leading cause of amputations. There are so many causes, such as neuropathy, which is numbness and tingling sensations in the feet, poor circulation, excessive pressures, Charcot foot, and infection. These are all issues that can either be treated or accommodated. So with neuropathy, most people aren't able to feel their feet, or they have very low sensation in their feet. So what I usually recommend is to protect the foot by wearing some custom-made insoles to prevent any issues from taking place. With poor circulation, I usually recommend people get compression stockings. Now, with compression stockings, it's very important to know that this is something that you have to be measured for. There's some times where they have shoe sizes that they go by. I never recommend those compression stockings that go by shoe size, because the issue is me and someone could wear the same size shoe, but that doesn't mean that our ankle and our leg is the same size. So you have to be measured to make sure that you get the appropriate size for you, because if it's too tight, it's gonna cause an issue. If it's too slack, then it's not doing anything. So you have to make sure that the right size is what you get. With excessive pressures, I usually say the custom insoles, because what I usually do is I do an evaluation of your feet. and I see where there's extra pressures, and where there's pressures, I take away so that when you're standing on your feet, you're not getting pressures in those areas. I offload that area of your foot. Infection, normally you would have your doctor write up a prescription for you in order to help clear up the infection. But you want to make sure to catch that infection early so that they can hurry up and get rid of that infection, because once it spreads, it can cause more problems and make it more difficult to lose, to get rid of that infection. Now, Charcot foot. I've had, and just today, I've had a patient that has Charcot foot. Charcot foot is basically, if you have neuropathy, you can possibly have it where you get multiple fractures in the foot and it causes the bones in the foot to break down. And a lot of times the person who has Charcot foot, they end up walking on the bone on the inside of their foot. Like it's like a collapsed arch, or sometimes it could collapse on the outside of the foot, on this side of the foot, the pinky toe side. And you could end up getting pressure there that can turn into an ulcer, that can turn into an infection, and that could lead to an amputation. So for someone who has Charcot foot, I usually recommend something that's called a crow boot. And that's something that offloads wherever that broken bone is. It offloads the spot so that you don't get pressure on that to lead to the skin breakdown, etc. So we're going to move on to the next one. What are some strategies to prevent amputation? I went over a lot of that just now. Compression stockings help with the circulation, custom-made insoles to offload high-pressure areas and accommodate deformities like Charcot foot. Proper shoes and or boots if necessary. Medication prescribed by your doctor. Exercise. Exercise is important. You want to keep moving around so that you get the circulation flowing. That is very important. Healthy eating habits and healthy drinking habits. Those are also very important. Describe life after amputation. Once an amputee comes into my office for a consultation, one of the many questions that I ask is what activities they did before becoming an amputee and what activities do you plan to do once you get your prosthesis. I will then decide based on what I see when I do my evaluation, because I also touch the residual limb, and I also always look at the side that is not amputated, because the whole point of that is we want to prevent anything from happening to the other side. Because like I mentioned earlier, it affects whatever is the furthest point from your heart. So since the prosthetic side has already been amputated, we have to make sure prevent anything from happening to the other side. So I always look at that side just to make sure if I need to do insoles for that person or not. So once I do that and I see and I touch and everything, the next, I need to know what is the best prosthesis that would be for that person. Everybody is different, so everybody would not get the same prosthesis. Depends on the strength of the person, the weight of the person, and of course, the activities that the person planned to do. So it's definitely important that you see somebody who is a trained prosthetist to know what options there are out there to provide specifically for you. I have persons that are taxi drivers, mechanics, people who climb ladders, etc. So there is life after an amputation, and you heard that by listening to both of the speakers before. What role does orthotist, prosthetist play in helping amputees cope? We are there for our patients. Any questions, any concerns they have, we are there to explain the whole process. There's sometimes where people have gotten an amputation and they come in and they're like, I keep on feeling this something like my toes being squeezed, and you're like, the side that you're not amputated on? They say, no, on the amputated side. And then you have to explain to them that there's something that's called phantom sensation that every amputee goes through, because the brain still thinks that you still have your leg. So you end up having different sensations, whether it's pain, cold, tightness. I've had people who just recently told me it feels like their shoes too tight. You can't feel that because the foot is not there. So that's something that you have to walk them through. And there's a lot of other things that people have questions about, and we try to walk them through by the best of our knowledge that we were given. So when they receive their prosthesis, they then come in to practice walking. They learn how to get back to their daily activities. I have patients that I always ask all of my patients, do you have stairs at home? Okay, you have stairs, perfect. We have stairs at our office. You are going to learn how to use the stairs at the office so that when you go home, you can do the same thing. So we always do that. And we push them to get up and get back on their feet as if so that they know that there's still hope. We work hard to make sure they get back to as close to normal as possible. We also have a group called Bahamas Amputee Association. That's the shirt that I'm wearing today. So excuse me for not wearing orange, but this is our shirts. You can see here Bahamas Amputee Association. And Limb Loss Awareness Month is in April, which is now. And this is the little ribbon for limb loss awareness. So that's the shirt that I have on today. But we do have a group, Bahamas Amputee Association. It is a support group, but we also do some fun activities. We actually just had a meeting about 2 weeks ago now, where we were discussing different events that we are going to do for this month. And if anyone's interested in joining the group, it's open to anyone. It's not specific for people who went to Lewis Orthopedics to get their prosthesis. Anyone who's an amputee and they want to join the association, feel free. I'll give you the number at the end so that you can give us a call. I'll give you the address so you know where we are located. But anyone is welcome to join Bahamas Amputee Association. So, one thing that I want to let you know, once you become an amputee and you get a prosthesis, you will have your prosthetist until the end of time. A prosthesis is like a car. From time to time, you'll need to have parts changed. Your residual limb also changes in shape. It will shrink over time, leading to needing a new socket. And I'm going to show you in a second what a socket is. And a prosthetist is a mechanic. So I'm your mechanic and your prosthesis is my car. So I would be working on different things over time. Different parts of the prosthesis will need to be changed out over time, like I said. But I actually brought 3 different prostheses with me so I can show you. I also like to let people know what is very important is that you have your prosthesis custom made to you. Everybody is different. If you look at my hand, all 5 fingers are different. So everyone in the world is different. Everyone's residual limb is going to be different. Some people have a longer limb. Some people have a shorter limb. Some people own is a little bit bigger. Some people is more narrow and bony. There's bones in different places. Some people have more prominent bones than others. So if I see all of that, I need to offload that area so that they don't get pressure, because I have seen time and time again where people have bought prosthesis online or they've borrowed a prosthesis from somebody else and it never works out. The reason behind that is because every single person is different. So it has to be custom made to you. So let me show you. Let me see if this could turn around. Okay, it won't turn around. But this is one of my prostheses. I don't know why it's blurry. Oh, there we go. So this is one prosthesis that we made. And a lot of people always ask the question, are we gonna always see this pipe? No. When you first come in to see me and to start learning how to walk around, I need that to be exposed, because while you're walking, I'm making little adjustments to you to make sure that the alignment of the leg is right for you. So yes, you'll see the pipe or pylon for now, but after a while, after we're finished making all the changes that we need to make, we do cover it so that it looks more like your leg. So that's one. Oh, I also wanted to show you this part here where your residual limb goes into. This is called your socket. So this has to be custom made to you. And I don't know if you can see, but this person here has a very prominent bone in the front here that had to be made specifically for him because this person's bone is very prominent. If I did not do this buildup on them, they would end up having skin breakdown, and that's something that we do not want. Now I have another person's prosthesis that I'll stand them about side to side so you can see. One person is way shorter than the other. You can see that. One person's is a lot wider than the other. So that is to show that every single prosthesis is different and it has to be custom made to you. So now I'm going to give you guys some advice that I wrote down. So the first one is, do not trim your own callus or toenails. I've had people who come in and say, oh, I just use a pocket knife and cut off the callus. That is a terrible idea. The issue behind that is, especially if you have neuropathy and you cannot feel, and you go ahead and try to cut that down, you don't know how much you are truly cutting down, and that could lead to you having an open wound. Like I said, the whole process, open wound could lead into a infection that could lead into an amputation. So please do not do that. Same thing to do with the toenails. Do not cut it yourself. I also say to people, see a podiatrist or an orthotist. Do not go to a nail tech if you are a diabetic. The reason behind that is because podiatrists clean their utensils, sterilize it completely. A nail tech may not sterilize it as much as a podiatrist would. So it's definitely important to not go to a nail tech to get all those things done, those filing down and all of that. The next advice is check your feet often. For callousing, for nails and screws, I have plenty stories where people tell me they was walking around and a nail went into their shoe and they had no idea until they got home and saw the trail of blood leading behind them. So you definitely want to check your feet often. I just told someone today, what you want to do is, as long as you go outside or you go somewhere where the ground is like on a mechanic or someplace that has the floor is not clean, you want to make sure to check your feet after that, because you don't want to step on something and then it leads to an issue. Pebbles and stuff could go into your shoes and you don't know it. And you're just walking around with that in your shoe all day until when you get home and you see that there's an issue. Prevent that from happening. I also say to people to make sure that the shoes that you are wearing are either closed-in shoes, very supportive, firm shoes, and no flip-flops, no push-in shoes, because I could tell you, I've had patients that, specifically this lady told me she was going to the hospital for an appointment and she got inside and sat down and she looked and she realized that her shoes were gone. So she had to go back outside and she found her shoes in the parking lot. So I always say, if your shoes are not holding onto your feet, that's not a shoe that you should be wearing. So if it has like the sandal shoes that come up over the heel in the back, that's okay. It's not something that I would 100% recommend, but that's better than those push-in shoes. So definitely make sure that the shoes that you're wearing are the shoes that you should be wearing. The next thing is, and I shouldn't have to say this, but I have to say this, do not try to make your own prosthesis. I have actually seen this happen. more than one person make their own prosthesis because they're a handyman. And because they don't make it the way that they should make it, they end up leading to having skin breakdown. One of the people end up having to have another amputation because it was so broken, their skin was so broken down, and they ended up getting an infection. So you definitely want to make sure, go and see a prosthetist. Do not try to make one on your own, especially as a diabetic. The next one, and I think I mentioned it earlier, do not buy an already made prosthesis. Not a good idea. Same thing, everyone is different. It has to be made to you. If it's not made to you, then you are going to have an issue. And I will tell you that 100% you will have an issue if it's not made to you. So those are my advice. Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to add. I think that's everything. Yeah, that's everything. Does anyone have any questions for me? Let me mention, if anybody needs to know, the phone number for the office, Lewis Orthopedics, is 325-4938. I'll probably put it in the chat. And then the address for the office is number 60 Wilton Street. That's 60 Wilton with a W Street. And that is in Centerville area. So you can always feel free to give us a call if you want to ask questions. The secretary is very good at answering questions. And then if you want to make an appointment to come in for a consultation, you can feel free to do that with her as well. She is the one that puts together all my appointments, and then I go from there. I also do travel to Freeport, which I will be there on Monday, the 17th. I think Monday is the 17th, but the 17th, I will be in Freeport seeing patients for both prosthetics and orthotics. So if anyone is in Freeport, you can also give us a call and let us know, and we'll get you on the list for when I come down there. Any questions from anyone?
Do you know exactly where you're going to be in Freeport?
That is a wonderful question. I typically go to the Rand, but I just received a call yesterday that they were changing the location to somewhere in the Circle Mall. Are you in Freeport currently?
I'm not, but my family is in Freeport.
Okay. If they know where the Circle Mall is, it's a little store that also does physical therapy. They are called ACD, I think, but I know for sure it's in the Circle Mall. If you call the office, I'll be able to give you the answer to that. I'll make a note of that now so I can find out exactly where in Freeport I will be. But I used to go to the Rand, but I think they're changing the location because of some stuff they have going on.
Okay, my apologies, a little bit late. What is your name?
My name is Jodie Lewis. From
Thank you,
Lewis
Jodi.
Orthopedics. No problem.
Presentation was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. I'm just calling about the prices, what the prices range from.
Great question as well. So, because there's such a wide range of not only the level of amputation, but different types of prosthesis based on what kind of activities the person plans to do and what that patient actually will need. It's really difficult to give an exact cost. For a toe missing, it could start about 500, I think, and go up to the 1,000. So I can't say specifically how much it'll cost, but once someone comes in for a consultation, then I can definitely tell you the price of it.
It's not working with the phone protect. It's very, so I have to do it like. She getting it right now. No. So why when I do something you don't tell me?
Can you repeat the number again for me, please?
Yes, the phone
You're
number is
making segregation.
325-4938. And the address, just in case, is number
That number again, please.
60 Wilton Street.
Miss Lewis, you can put it in the chat, please, so they could get it out of the chat.
I
So
will.
let me go ahead and do that. Let me look in the chat to see. I see we have a couple of questions. I'll read them off for you.
Okay.
So the first question is about how much it is for the consultation. What would be, if you could give an idea of what the consultation fee would be?
Yes. Okay. I just put it in the chat.
Awesome.
Consultation for prosthesis is, I think, 140. I think it's about 140. Yeah.
Okay, so you answered a question on, you spoke a little bit about what phantom pain is. So another person asked a little bit, so if you can tell them a little bit more about phantom pain. So if you can just repeat that, yeah.
No problem. Phantom sensation is what it's called now, because it was called phantom pain at first, but then they realized that people were not only having pain, but different sensations. But what happens is the brain still thinks that your leg is still there. So it's still sending signals down there, and it just sends all these random signals because the brain doesn't know what to do. Because once you get the amputation done, they have to reassemble the muscles and some of the nerves and stuff. So what happens is the brain doesn't know what's happening. And so it just sends signals down there. And so some people have where it feels like pain. Some people feel like their shoe is too tight. Some people feel itching. And all of that is normal. Every single amputee experiences this.
Awesome. So another question we have, Ms. Lewis, I just want to say thank you so much for that presentation. It was very enlightening, very practical, and you know, you always have some show and tell, and so we love that. Persons love to see that. So it was awesome to see the actual prosthesis and the socket and everything. So thank you so much for that. I am sure I was enlightened, and I'm sure that our guests was as well. So thank you very much for that.
No problem.
We have another question in the chat. It says, can you provide a payment plan, and at what point do the person get to get the leg? So is there a payment plan? Because you said that it could be in the thousands for persons who may not have insurance or something like that. Is there a payment plan, a way that they can, continue to pay for it?
Right.
Do you offer that? Yes.
Yes. To answer that question, the only thing is I don't usually deal with the funds. The secretary deals with that. You could ask me about the products all day long and I could answer all of that. I can't tell you exactly how much things cost or the payment plan options, because she usually sets all of that up, and she will call people to remind them about payment and stuff like that. So what normally would happen is the person would come in for the consultation. Once we provide the quote, they go to her, and then they ask about the payment plan, and she'll say, okay, she'll sit down with them and explain the different options. So she is better equipped to answer that fully than I am. But yes, we do payment plans.
Okay, excellent. So I can answer this question in the chat. The person asks, do you sell prosthesis? And so I can say yes. Lewis Orthopedics make and sell them. So yes, you can contact them. You don't have to go nowhere else.
Yes, so we make them right here.
Excellent, excellent. And so the benefit of having them made right here is that if there's any need for modification or changes, because you learn as the person has a prosthesis, there may be a time when there needs to be adjustments and, the leg changes and all of that. And so by having it made right here, it's easier. You don't have to get back on the plane and go back away to get your prosthesis adjusted. So that's one of the great benefits I feel to having it done here. So That's why we make sure we wanted to have Ms. Lewis here to let you know exactly what they do. She actually make them. She is the person who make them. So definitely she adjusts them and can modify them as needed. So we have another question in the chat here that says, do you need a referral to come and see you, Ms. Lewis?
You do not need a referral. The only time you would need a referral is if you plan to go through insurance. If you go in through insurance, then the insurance company will definitely recommend that you get a referral, so that the doctor tells them, hey, yes, they did get an amputation and they need a prosthesis. And then the insurance company will be like, okay, yeah, sure, here is whatever the person needs. So you don't need a referral if you are self-paid. Some people go through social service. Some people go through national insurance, disability affairs, all those different options out there. We accept them. So yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And I do want to mention, for some people who was not here in the beginning, I was trained here in the beginning before I went off to college. Before I graduated high school, I was trained. But once I went to college, I spent 7 years and got my master's degree in orthotics and prosthetics. And now I am back home. So I was trained here, but I was also trained a lot further in the United States.
Excellent. Ms. Duncombe, I see you have a question for me. Yes, I do house calls or home visits. I'm going to put my number in the chat. You can just give me a call or WhatsApp, 802-3668. I'll type it in the chat, but you can just give me a WhatsApp and then we can discuss the house call if you need it. I also want to piggyback on something Ms. Lewis said about the importance of seeing a podiatrist, because a lot of times persons have an amputation and then they decide, or for whatever reason, they don't come back to see the podiatrist. But that other leg, the remaining leg, needs to be protected. And so we encourage persons to continue to see the podiatrist. And as a matter of fact, it's important to see the podiatrist because you are now at higher risk for a second amputation on that remaining leg. Because now that you have the prosthesis, persons tend to put more weight bearing on the remaining leg because they don't want to, put as much weight on the prosthesis, especially in the early days or the early time. So that means that there's more pressure on the remaining leg. So persons who had an amputation, a below knee, or definitely if it's any part of the foot, they need to continue. But definitely for the below knee and above knee that have a prosthesis, you need to continue seeing the podiatrist because that leg now is at higher risk for an amputation. And you need to come in to get, like Ms. Lewis said, the calluses, the corns, the nails, all of these things that are at high risk, put you at high risk for an ulcers and amputation. So you need to continue seeing the podiatrist. And as a matter of fact, you may have to see them more often because now there's more pressure on the foot. So definitely we want to do that. Okay, someone is asking.
Dr. Mitchell, we have a few hands raised in case you didn't notice.
No, I noticed them, but we have some more questions in the chat first. So as soon as I'm done with them, I'm going to do it. Burning in the feet. Okay, we see your request for burning in the feet. Just missed that one last month. Okay, very good presentations. We have many commendations in the chat, Ms. Lewis. So excellent if you get a chance to scroll. So Ms. Lewis, do you make diabetic shoes? Do you sell diabetic shoes as well?
I do sell diabetic shoes. I usually explain to people that diabetic shoes is important, but what's more important is the insole that goes into the diabetic shoes. But to answer your question, yes, we do diabetic shoes.
Awesome. So if a person is on the out island, get a prosthesis, how do they get the practice in using it? Oh, if the person lives on the, for example, if they live on the family island and they have a prosthesis, how do they get practice using it? Well, you know, you would probably do that before they before they go, but yes, go ahead.
I actually have patients in Exuma, Andres, Abaco, Eleuthera, Freeport. Typically what happens is they will come in because they have to see multiple doctors in Nassau anyway. So we try to set up a time where when they're coming into the island, we see them at the same time. If we have to cast them, because to make a prosthesis, we have to cast you. That's how it's made custom to you. But we would cast you and make sure that we get started on making the prosthesis so that by the next time you come back in, you're coming in to start walking and practice walking. Now, the time frame of how long a person takes to master using their prosthesis depends on the person. Everyone is different. I've had people who on day one walk, and I've had some people who on day one, the only thing they can do is just stand up and sit down, just practicing getting used to having 2 feet under them again. So that's different too, but it's not been that difficult to have patients from the family islands coming in to practice, but it really depends on what they have going on in their life as well. I've actually been speaking recently to someone in Eleuthera. I've gotten a few calls from people who were expressing needing me to bring my services to Eleuthera. So I was thinking about doing that. But in order for me to come to a family island, I'd need to know exactly what space I'll be using in order to have a clinic. Excuse me. And then I'd have to have a certain amount of people so that I'm not just coming to the family island to see one person. So we can look into me coming to different family islands. I'm very much open to it because I am aware that people on different islands need the services. But like I say, a lot of the people just come to Nassau just because they have to see different doctors. But if it's a case where there are more people on different family islands that I need to come to travel to see, I'm open to it. If I can find a place that I can actually do the clinic, I am completely willing to do it. So if anyone has any ideas of which islands it is that you would want me to come, feel free to let me know. The number is in the chat, so you can give us a call and we can work on that.
Okay, we have one other question in the chat that says, what are your office hours? And then someone wants to know if there's an age limit for persons for a prosthesis. Is there age limit, like young or old? Is there age limit?
So great questions. Office hours, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're not open on the weekends. The second question, what was the second question?
Is there an age limit for persons who can get a prosthesis?
So the youngest person that I've gotten a call for was a couple months old, and I just feel as if you're not using your hands or feeding yourself and stuff like that, and not learning to try to stand up on that one foot, then it's best to give the child some time. But once they're at least 2, I say, why not? Now, when it gets to the upper ages, the oldest patient that I have right now he's 90. So it really depends on the person as well, how active they are, what they are capable of, because anytime a person comes in to have a consultation done, I always ask them to stand up. If you can stand, you can walk. If you can't stand, then I gotta question a little bit. Sometimes I do get patients that struggle with standing for a long period of time. but I work with them to try to get them to start being able to stand for a longer time. And I've had people who could stand for like 5 seconds, and then once they get the prosthesis, they standing up for 5 minutes, and that increasing and increasing and increasing. So it really just depends. And once I see the person, then I could actually say better. That's why I always tell people it's really better for you to come in for a consultation, because seeing the person over the camera or just talking to them on the phone, I can't really see what's going on. I can't touch. I can't do all the things that I would normally do inside of an actual consultation. So it's really, really better to come in, and then I could actually answer much better.
Awesome. Miss Jackie Crawford, you can go ahead and ask your question, unmute, and I will check the chat. I think I see a couple more questions. Go ahead.
No problem.
This is more of a technical question, and I know it varies. What is the typical length of time or amount of time from amputation to a person getting a prosthetics, primarily for somebody who is the double amputee, somebody that just got both legs amputated? What have you seen in your practice?
Now, did they become a double amputee at the same time, or it was one first and then the other couple months or a year later?
At the same time.
Ooh, that is different. I usually tell people that once they are healed, like they take out the stitches and everything, then we can go forward with making a prosthesis. But it depends on the time frame it takes for them to heal, because what happens is diabetics take time to heal. They have to make sure that they're eating healthy. Even though that they lost both legs, what they want to do is still move, still extend the knees, bend the knees, lift it up. You have to keep moving. And that helps with circulation to help with the healing process. So once the person is healed, and that, like I say, it depends on the person, then we can go forward with making a prosthesis. And I did not mention, thank you for asking this question, and it reminded me, every person that gets a below knee prosthesis needs to be put in what's called a stump shrinker. The shrinker has to be worn, I usually say, for at least 48 hours before I cast somebody for their prosthesis. The reason you need a stump shrinker is when you get an amputation done, you swell. We want to make sure get that swelling down, and it doesn't take too long, but at least 48 hours is what I usually tell people to get that swelling down. And once you get that swelling down as much as possible, then I go forward with casting the person. Because what happens is, if I was to just cast the person after they get the amputation and they just start walking on that prosthesis, they are going to shrink. Every single below knee amputee will shrink. Whether they wear a prosthesis wear a stump shrinker or not, they will shrink. So we try to get as much of that swelling down as possible before casting, so that when they do shrink, it's not a significant amount of shrinkage. Because what could happen is, if you shrink a lot in your socket, you will hit the bottom, and that will cause other issues. So we have to make sure, get that swelling down, make sure it's healed, and then I go forward with making the prosthesis.
Great. I have one more question. This is a great forum. Is this something that happens on a monthly or bi-weekly basis? I just happened to get this in a chat and I joined. So if this is something that happens on I would love to
monthly. We have a meeting every month. It's the second Thursday in the month, usually. And what we do is we cover different aspects about diabetes and lower extremity conditions and complaints. So every second Thursday in the month. So
how do I
if you send us, put your number in the chat, and then I will put you on the list, and then you'll get an invitation.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, Ms. Lewis, we're almost done. Great presentation. Thank you. You provided a lot of information. So this question is similar to the question from Ms. Crawford. what can be done for double amputees? You get two prostheses for them. How is that?
Yes.
How does that work?
I actually, here in the Bahamas, 2 double amputees. One of them, they only got one of their prostheses. And then when it came to getting the second prosthesis, was having a little bit of issues trying to get the funding through where they were trying to get the funding from. But I had another person, oh no, three. Another person, he's bilateral. One side, he's below the knee, one side above the knee. And we had him walking. The other person, whenever you have a double amputee, it's a lot more scary to people. So they tend to be a little timid when it comes to trying to balance on 2 prostheses. It is very much doable, but I've had people who just get in their head and they just feel as if, oh, I can't do it. But it's very much doable. I've done it before. I've seen it before. I went to a clinic in California and San Diego. It was a running clinic, and there were a few of the guys there who were bilateral and they were running. So it's very much possible. But that also depends on the person and their mindset and what they can accomplish. But it has to be something that you want to be able to do. Once you have the drive to do it, you can do it.
Okay, awesome. So we have one more question here. Another question very similar to one you answered before. Mm-hmm. What would be the general ballpark for figure price for the prosthesis? So
it's very difficult to say. Like I said, it's like some people could be missing a toe and then it can just go all the way up to missing all the way at the hip level. And so it's really difficult to tell because some people have where they are more active than others. So they need a different kind of foot or they need a different kind of knee. So it's not really easy to give a figure, but I said about 500 and it could go up into the thousands. So I've had people who paid 7,000. Some people pay 9 and more than that. So it really depends on the person.
Okay. So I think our last question is, if an amputee, the amputated limb is swollen, what would you encourage the person to do? Do they continue wearing their prosthesis? Do they see the doctor? Do they come back to you? What do you recommend that they do?
You said the residual limb is swollen?
Yes.
So if your residual limb is swollen and you have a prosthesis, I actually had someone earlier this week, or no, last week, she came in. She has a prosthesis, but she's coming into practice walking. So what happened with her is she forgot to put on her shrinker, which helps for the swelling to go down so that you can get into the prosthesis. Once she did swell up, she went ahead and put the shrinker on. And once you wear the shrinker for a certain amount of time and it helps for the swelling to go down, then you can get back into the prosthesis. Now, what happens sometimes is people who get a shrinker, they've had it for years and they've just been using it over and over and the shrinker stretches out. You just need to get a new one. Some people are not washing their shrinker correctly. And so it ended up stretching out really quickly. And so you need to make sure and get a new shrinker. Now, some people don't even have a shrinker. If you don't have a shrinker, you definitely need to get one. Because what happens is once you swell and you try to go put on your prosthesis, you're not getting in at all. It's not going to happen. It's going to take you having to put the shrinker on and elevate the foot before the swelling goes down for you to put your prosthesis on. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We have many commendations in the chat. Great presentation, very timely. Someone said that her brother just became a double amputee in Freeport on April 1st. That was like last week. Wow. So this kind of information is very timely. Persons are putting their numbers in the chat. If you would like to be on the invitation list, you didn't get an invitation, you received this by forward from someone, you can put your name and your phone number in the chat, and we will add you to the list so that you get your invitation for next month. We have one more question here. Ms. Crawford making sure she's getting all her answers tonight. How much
I see
is the
someone with their hand raised too.
Okay, I see one more. How much is the shrinker?
If I could remember correctly, and please do not quote me, it's less than $25, but I think it's $24 and change.
Awesome. So call the secretary though.
Yes, she have all the answers. Anything to do with the funds, she have all the answers.
Call the secretary. Someone, Tim's on the Bay in Exuma, said his grandmother became an amputee today.
Wow.
Wow, Tim. Well, we're very happy that you're here and that you received all this information. You have, Ms. Lewis, I would invite you to say your phone number and location again before we leave, so that persons who may have come in a little bit later, they didn't get it, make sure that they get it. Wait, before we do that, we have Mr. Wallace with his hand raised. So Mr. Wallace, go ahead first. Mr. Wallace, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am just trying to find out, how long does it take from getting fitted to completion for the prosthetic?
Good question. So everyone is different. Let me start off with that. What happens is I cast the person, we make the prosthesis right there in the office. And once the person comes in and they practice walking, that will really give me a better gauge of how long the person will take to actually be a pro at walking. Some people stand up and walk in the first day. Some people take a couple of days, some people take months. So it really depends on each person. But once the person comes in for a consultation and I see what they're able to do, then I may have a better answer to that. But really, I'd have a even better answer once they get the prosthesis and I see what they're doing then. So everyone is different.
Excellent. Okay, I think we're at the end. So Ms. Lewis, before I close, would you please give us your name, your number and location again? So okay, yes, persons could get, I'll go over that once I'm done. Go ahead and give your location and your phone numbers so persons would be able to get in touch with you.
Yes, my phone number is 325-4938. The office is located on number 60 Wilton with a W Street, and that is in Centerville area.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Lewis. Before we close, I invite you to go to the chat and just look at the commentations and the thank yous and phenomenal presentation, excellent job. Just go ahead and take a look at the chat so that you could see exactly what persons are saying, and they're thanking you for this presentation. And it was very timely. Persons, we actually got up to 87. So it was very good. And thank you so much. I love your spirit that you're always willing to do and to assist. And, you know, I would like for you also to tell persons about the Bahamas Amputee Association Support Group. Where do you meet? How often? And everything, because persons need to know that. As you can see from the turnout and from the questions, this is something our persons are really, really interested in.
Yes. So we decided to start a support group, Bahamas Amputee Association, and we started it, I think, 5 years ago. And it's not only for persons that got a prosthesis or got a prosthesis at Lewis Orthopedics. Anyone who is an amputee and they would like to be a part of the Bahamas Amputee Association can be a part of it. We celebrate April because April is Limb Loss Awareness Month. And we just had a meeting about 2 weeks ago deciding different activities that we want to do for the month. But we usually meet the last Friday of the month. We just started our meetings back up last month because during COVID, it was really difficult and nobody really wanted to come out because of the COVID situation. So we just started back up last month, and we had decided that we want to start doing meetings again the last Friday of every month. We usually have the meetings at Lewis Orthopedics. So if anybody wants to be a part of the association, just give us a call. We are actually next month at the next meeting planning to do elections so that we could have a president, the vice president, etc. We actually have a president, so the rest of that is what we're going to be voting for. We had all of those before, but along the way, we've lost some persons that were a part of our Bahamas Amputee Association family, unfortunately have passed. So we are trying to get back into the swing of things, but we will be meeting, like I said, the last Friday of the next month. So if anybody wants to come, definitely. Great question. I don't know the answer to. Let me write that down. See, I have a list of things that I have to ask, and that's one of them.
Okay.
Time.
So we know to call the office and
yes.
get that information.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, but we also have shirts, as you see, and we just ordered a few new ones. But if anybody wants a shirt, you can always call us as well, and we can get them done. But it has Bahamas Amputee Association Limb Loss Awareness Month, April. And then this is the ribbon for limb loss awareness.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our meeting tonight. And we're very, very happy that you are here. It was an awesome meeting. We had a lot of information was covered, as well as we had show and tell. We had a lot of questions answered. We had testimonials. So it was a full meeting. We want to thank Mr. Cooper and Ms. Gardner. We want to thank Pastor Sims, who gave us our devotional earlier. And we want to thank especially Ms. Lewis, who did an awesome job with her presentation and answering all the questions. And we want to thank you for being here with us tonight. We have persons from North Carolina, New Providence, of course, Bimini, Grand Bahama, Exuma, and other islands in the Bahamas. Usually we have some people from the Caribbean, but I haven't seen anybody put in the chat. But we are very, very grateful for you all being here, for your attention and for your time. You know, we are very happy that you are here. And we invite you, if you want more information, to call Lewis Orthopedics, call the Amputee Association, and get your questions answered. At this time, we're going to have our closing prayer by Elder Mitchell, who will stand in for Pastor Sims. And we want him to have our prayer at this time. Before he prays, I would like to say our next meeting is scheduled for the second Thursday in May, which is the 11th of May. And we hope that we will see you there. Those persons who would like to get an invitation, if you haven't already done so, you can put your name and number in the chat and we will add you to the WhatsApp so that you get your invitation when we are sending out for the next month. If you want to watch the video will be uploaded, I think, by next week onto our YouTube channel, which is Feet for Life, Feet with a 4 Life. We will upload that to that channel, and so you would be able to go and watch that and all the others. I see we have someone from Jamaica joining us, so we want to say welcome. I'm so glad to have you from Jamaica and the other places. So we're very happy that you're here. We're now going to have
a patient from Jamaica, and I have a patient from Turks and Caicos. I wonder if that's the person there. I don't know.
It's we just see the phone, so we just see the Galaxy. Yes, we don't know the name. So, but maybe that's them. Awesome job. So now we'll have our closing prayer by Elder Mitchell. Mute.
Good evening, everybody. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be educated. We thank you that you've given persons like Ms. Lewis and Dr. Mitchell information, knowledge, and wisdom that can help us, even with challenges that we face that we may not have earlier anticipated. We thank you that through this education and information, we are able to have a brighter outlook and can continue to press on and press forward and look at the future with hope. Father, we pray that everyone in this meeting and everyone who has been party to this information will use it to brighten their lives and also the lives of those with whom they come in contact. May each of us continue to trust in you and have hope and confidence in you that you can do all things, even beyond those of our own imagination. Please give us each a good, safe, restful, peaceful night. May we ever be under the umbrella of your protection and love, both now and in eternity. We pray in the name of Jesus and for his sake. Amen.
Amen. And good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We will take down the names and put you in the invitation list. And so glad that you made it. And we're very, very happy. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for the presentation.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Awesome presentation.
So
Thank you,
please,
Mr.
if
Cooper.
you remind me.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night. God bless you all.
Good night. Awesome presentation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night, Dr. Mitchell.
Good night. Good to see you.
All right.
Good night, Dr. Mitchell.
Good night. Good night, Miss Lorraine.
Doctor, thank you. Thank you
Good night,
all for the
Dr. Mitchell.
presentation.
Awesome
It's very
presentation.
informative.
Good night.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good night. Excellent presentation, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you so much, Miss Oliver. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night from St. Lucia.
Awesome. See, thank you. Thank you for coming, St. Lucia.
It was a wonderful presentation. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks.